Is this thing on? It is. All right, I'm DaRock. Welcome back to another video talking ball, another college basketball preview. This week, the big week of conference challenges with the ACC SEC conference challenge. This is why I love college basketball. I mean, we got a bunch of great games to start the season. We got Champions Classic, then you roll right into Feast Week, and now once again, Conference Challenge Week, ACC, SEC. So a lot of good ranked matchups between a lot of star-studded, highly touted programs, as well as just a lot of good games across college basketball. So going to talk about all those, as well as go through the net rankings here. They just dropped, so those play a big role in kind of teams' resumes for the NCAA tournament. I mean, it's only December, but March is going to be here before you know it. So let's get into it, talk some ball, make sure to like the video, follow the channel, and let's go. Alright, so we're going to start off today's video, rather than jumping right into the games, the net rankings released today, and the net rankings play a very big role in teams' kind of resumes for the NCAA tournament. So how it works, like, you know, when they reference like a quad 1 win or like a quad 3 or 4 loss, which those are, you know, very important. You want the quad 1 wins, those really boost your resume. The quad 3 and 4 losses really take down your resume. So quad 1 is if you're playing at home against a team ranked 1 through 30, on a neutral site 1 through 50, or on the road 1 through 75. Then for quad 2, home is 31 through 75, away or neutrals 51 through 100, and away is 76 through 135. And then quad 3 is then home any team lower than 76 to 160, neutral any team 101 to 200, and away 135 to 240. And then Q4 is all the ones below that. So if you can get wins against a lot of these top teams, that can really boost your resume for a lot of these bubble teams. And obviously, you know, this kind of switches throughout the season, but so far at our initial look here, we have Michigan, number 1 team in the country on the net rankings. You know, meaning they got the best resume so far, and I don't blame the rankings for, you know, kind of spin that out. I guess this is all like metric space stuff. They win the Players Era. They destroy Gonzaga by 40 in that championship game. All blowout wins in that, honestly, you know, taking down, I want to say it was San Diego State and then Auburn. Like I said, the Players Era, so confusing, so many games. I forget who played who. And then number 2, Duke, 8-0. They're kind of in the middle of like a pretty tough stretch here. They take down Arkansas in the United Center on Thanksgiving, but then, you know, I got a big game here on Tuesday we'll get into here in a second. 3rd, Purdue, 7-0. Didn't play in any Feast Week tournaments last week, but played in the Baja Mar Thursday and Friday the week prior, and just like killed Texas Tech in the championship by 30. So kind of similar to Michigan. Both those teams looked very good. And then Vandy, 8-0, the winner of the Battle for Atlantis. They've looked really good so far this year. I mean, in the actual rankings, I want to say the AP poll, they were like 17th or something. So definitely a little bit higher. Yeah, 17th. So a little bit higher than these other teams. Gonzaga still at 5th. You know, they looked pretty dominant outside that Michigan game. Arizona at 6th. Some people after that UConn win for Arizona were saying they could be the number 1 team in the country. So they've looked good. Iowa State, who got screwed in the Players Era, you know, won both their games pretty handily, and then their reward was a 5th place game against Syracuse. So that, you know, one didn't really matter, but then they rolled in that game as well. So they're at 7th. UConn's at 8th. They've won all their games except for that. Arizona won. Louisville also 7-0 at 9th, and then Michigan State 7-0 rounds of the top 10. Then you get Indiana, Tennessee, BYU, Alabama, Kentucky. Iowa's another kind of surprising one, all the way up at 16. Kansas, who suffered a couple losses, there at 17. Houston, LSU undefeated, but yeah, maybe not a name you'd see normally. At 19th, USC 7-0. At 20th, Butler, another maybe surprising one, 21st. They're 6-1. Utah State also undefeated. Got another big game against USF this week. 22. St. John's 4-3. They've suffered a couple losses, but they've all been quad 1 losses, so 2 very good teams. 23. Illinois at 24. Losses to Alabama and UConn. So their losses have been in tough games, but they got a couple of good ones as well. And then Yale, champions of the Paradise Jam, round out the top 25. That might be off the screen here. With then North Carolina coming in right behind there. So now moving on to the games. This week we have the ACC SEC Challenge, probably one of the best events in college basketball. And that's why I love college basketball. It's just 1 week after, last week we have Feast Week, where it's, all these different MTEs, all these tournaments that were a lot of fun, a lot of big games. And now we come right back into it, and we got ACC SEC Challenge. I would love to see college football do something like this. We got a lot of really great matchups you can see on the screen here, we're going to get into them in a second here, but on Tuesday, the big one is Florida-Duke, and then UNC-Kentucky. But then you also got Tennessee-Syracuse. Syracuse, while going 0-3 at the Players Era, gave some teams a couple tough games. Tennessee beat Houston, so they're rolling pretty well. As well as Texas A&M Pitt, Va-Tech South Carolina, Oklahoma Wake Forest, Missouri Notre Dame, Miami Ole Miss, and then Georgia Florida State. Then Wednesday, the big ones, Louisville Arkansas and NC State Auburn, that we'll preview, as well as Clemson Alabama should be a pretty good one. LSU beat Boston College. Virginia and Texas could be a decent game. Those Tennessee Volunteers, who I've mentioned, have been playing pretty well. They play SMU, who's also undefeated, and then Mississippi State and Georgia Tech. So let's get into the preview of all these different games here. We're going to start with first at 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern on ESPN on Tuesday. The 15th-ranked Florida Gators head to the 4th-ranked Duke Blue Devils. This one is at Cameron Indoor Stadium. And the defending national champions against a team that very easily could have been playing them in that national championship game last year. 2 Final Four teams from a year ago. And Florida, they have not looked great so far. They suffered another loss this week to TCU, who lost to New Orleans on opening night. Granted, TCU gave Michigan, a tough game, and Michigan now might be the best team in the country, at least the net rankings say so. But then they bounced back with a nice win against Providence in the 3rd-place game of that. I want to say it was like the Rady Children's Invitational or something like that. And that was probably the best game from guard Xavier Lee, and he's going to need a big game in this one. On the Duke side, like mentioned, still undefeated. Nice win on Thanksgiving against Arkansas in the United Center. They host Florida here before heading to Michigan State on Saturday. A true road game there, so that should be a good one. But so far, Duke has passed all their tests, against Texas, against Kansas, against Arkansas. How will they now fare against Florida? Obviously led by Cam Boozer. He might already be solidifying that he's the best player in the country. He's looked really good to start this season. And honestly, I just think that's going to be the big thing. Is there anyone on the Florida side that can slow him down? And, if then the bigs are able to kind of slow him down, guys like Haw, Chinyalu, Condon, then can the guards maybe pick up some more of that slack offensively? And I have not seen that consistently enough yet from Florida. I think Duke has had a lot of guys that have really stepped up well offensively around Boozer. So while, he's been their leader, their go-to guy, they have other guys that I think can maybe step up and have some bigger games than this one. So for that reason, I'm going to go with the Blue Devils to take it. Then the next one, the big game the second game of that big doubleheader on ESPN at 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern. The 16th-ranked North Carolina Tar Heels head to the 18th-ranked Kentucky Wildcats. So North Carolina lost their last game against Michigan State in, it was in Fort Myers on Thanksgiving Day. So they have another tough test going up against Kentucky. Kentucky also lost this Michigan State team in the Champions Classic. They didn't play in any sort of MTE on Thanksgiving week, but have won their last 2 games. But I don't know. So far, in both these previews, I picked Kentucky. Actually, I don't know if I picked them against Louisville. I know I picked them against Michigan State. And they just have not looked good in their big tests, just offensively. So North Carolina, on the other hand, they've suffered a loss, their first loss here to Michigan State. Now kind of looking to get right. It's a road game, so it's not going to be easy to win, as you're seeing there. Kentucky's a 5.5-point favorite in this one. But I don't know. I'm just really not super impressed with this Wildcat team so far. I think, Caleb Wilson, the leader there for North Carolina, if he has another big game, which I could see him having here against this Kentucky team, I don't think they're really good enough defensively to slow him down. I honestly, I'm going to go with the upset in this one. I'm going to go with North Carolina to take this. Granted, I might be foolish. Vegas odds say not to do that. And looking at the projections here, they do have Kentucky winning as well. But in all honesty, like, I just haven't been super impressed with what I've seen from this Kentucky team, what I've watched them so far. Can't say I've watched that Michigan State game too closely just with it being on Thanksgiving, but against Kansas, I was really impressed with North Carolina. So I think they step up to the test here again, this time with it being on the road. So give me the Tar Heels to take that one. Then not an ACC, SEC game. They used to do the Big East, Big 12 battle, but I don't think they're doing this. I think this is just a out-of-nowhere game. The 5th-ranked UConn Huskies head to the Allen Fieldhouse to take on the 21st-ranked Kansas Jayhawks. UConn is a slight favorite in this one, 1-point favorite. Like I said, they won their last game against Illinois at Madison Square Garden, which kind of is a home game for Illinois, or I'm sorry, not for Illinois, for UConn. Kansas, in the players' era, they go 3-0. They got 3rd place as well. Like I said, kind of 2 easier games. Granted, no Darren Peterson in those games. Against Notre Dame and Syracuse, which I was pretty confident they were going to win. But then a nice win against Tennessee in that 3rd place game to go 3-0. So the Jayhawks playing some good basketball right now. As you can see, they're led by Flory Badunga. But I don't know, man. This UConn team just, like, they've really arisen to the challenge. You know, the game against BYU, the game against Illinois, did lose to Arizona. But I kind of like the star power with Solo Ball and Alex Caravan a little bit more on the UConn side than I like these Kansas guys. I want to say Darren Peterson is back playing in this game. Let me look that up for certain. I guess that also plays like a big role in it, where if he's playing, you know, Kansas probably has a better chance. All right, it looks like they'll say something about him tomorrow. So if he plays, I might flip this to Kansas. But for right now, just since it's uncertain, I'm just going to go with UConn. I like their weapons a little bit better. So give me the Huskies to take this one on the road. Going with another road team here. Then the last game I'm going to preview for Tuesday, the Big Ten. They kind of got shafted. You know, it used to be the Big Ten ACC Challenge, but then when they went away from their rights deal with the ESPN and kind of went with every other network except ESPN, they kind of got kicked out over. Now it's the ACC, SEC. So they're going with some conference games this week. And the biggest one tomorrow, 7 Eastern, 6 Central on Peacock. The 7-0 Iowa Hawkeyes head to the 7th-ranked 7-0 Michigan State Spartans. Michigan State currently 6.5-point favorite in this one. Both these teams undefeated so far. Like I mentioned, in the last game, Michigan State took down North Carolina in their last one to win the Fort Myers tip-off. Iowa won one of those Acrisure tournaments with wins against Ole Miss, and then a really low-scoring game against Grand Canyon. But that's kind of what I like about this Iowa team, is they can kind of play to whatever pace it takes to win a game, kind of slow a game down if they need to, or play a little bit higher scoring. I mean, they're still led by Bennett Sturtz, who I've talked about ad nauseum at this point, how he's just kind of their go-to guy. Michigan State, Jackson Kohler's been playing really well for them, as well as Cohen Carr, and then I want to say it's like not Carson Edwards. Carson Cooper, my apologies. Carson Cooper had a really big game in that UNC game. I just think Michigan State probably does have a couple more weapons than Iowa does, and with this game being at the Breslin Center, that probably goes in their favor. However, I mean, this maybe could be a bit of a look-ahead spot. Like I said, you got Duke coming to town on Saturday, but you know, I picked against Michigan State in a couple of their first couple games. They proved me wrong. They just kind of have guys step up and win these big games. So they're a team I'm not going to pick against them until they let me down. So give me Michigan State to take this one, but I don't know. Iowa could make this interesting. I think it's going to be a really good game to watch. Then just kind of looking through the rest of the games here on Tuesday, we got early basketball. Not great games, but George Washington and Army, and then Charleston Southern UT Martin like early on. I kind of already talked about Syracuse, Tennessee a little bit. That should be a good one. A&M and Pitt on ESPNU at 7 Eastern could be a competitive one as well. Just kind of looking at some of the other games here. Like I said, there's a couple good Big Ten games. I think Iowa, Michigan State's probably the best one. But honestly, Purdue heads to Rutgers, and Rutgers has had a history of kind of knocking off Purdue when they're the number one team, where that gym's kind of been a bit of a house of horrors for Purdue. That one is at 8 Eastern time on FS1, but Purdue's, the projections you're seeing there, they're projected to win by like double digits on both sides, so I'd be kind of surprised if Rutgers pulled it off again, but hey, you never know. And then USC-Oregon, the second game of that doubleheader, USC is projected to win, on Warren Nolan, they got Oregon. It just kind of depends. If Nate Biddle has a big game, they could the Ducks I could see taking down USC. game is in Oregon, in Eugene, so that should be a really competitive one as well. Honestly, I might then go with the Ducks just because of that home court advantage. But yeah, looking at that kind of looks like all the big ones for Tuesday. Missouri, Notre Dame, you can see there's projected to be a close one. So let's move on now to Wednesday, where the first game we have on Wednesday, this is probably the best one. Definitely think the Tuesday doubleheader is a little bit better than the Wednesday one. We have at 7:15 Eastern Time, 6:15 Central on ESPN, 7-0 Louisville, the 6th-ranked team in the country, heads to 25th-ranked Arkansas. So this is the only ranked-on-ranked matchup in this one. Louisville didn't play in any Feast Week MTE. They had a nice win against Cincinnati in the, the keg of nails is what it's called in football. Hell, I don't know if it has a basketball rivalry name. So that was a nice win. I want to say that one wasn't in the Yum Center, but it was like in Louisville. Arkansas, like I mentioned, also did not play in a Feast Week MTE, but did lose to Duke in the United Center. But I don't know, I thought Arkansas did fight pretty well in that game. Malik Thomas had a nice game. He's their leading scorer there on the Arkansas side. Ryan Conwell, the leader for Louisville right now, averaging 20 points a game. But then, Michael Brown is really kind of their go-to freshman that I've talked a lot about. As you're seeing there in the matchup predictor, it does have Louisville projected to win. Looking at the projections here, Warren Nolan's got Arkansas winning on the... And then, they both actually have Arkansas winning this game. Like I said, no line out yet since this is a Wednesday game. But I don't know. I've been really impressed with Louisville in their two kind of big tests so far. Against Kentucky, and then Cincinnati's not as good of a team, but and that was a game they trailed a little bit, but they kind of found a way to come back and win. Arkansas, I picked them against Michigan State, kind of burned me. Like I said, they looked good against Duke, but just kind of weren't able to finish the job. So for that reason, I'm gonna go with Louisville. I just think they have a couple more guys that I feel a bit more confident in. So give me the Cardinals in that one. Then another game at 7:15 Eastern on ESPNU, the 7-1 Clemson Tigers head to the 12th-ranked Alabama Crimson Tide. Clemson won their bracket in the Charleston Classic, beating West Virginia and then Georgia in overtime in a really good game. Alabama goes 2-1 at the Players Era, losing to Gonzaga, but then rolling against UNLV. I mean, that wasn't really a test, and then rolling Maryland as well. I'm kind of annoyed that they didn't put Alabama up against Iowa State. I think that would have been a really good game rather than just kind of having those two both play teams. On the Alabama side, led by LeBaron Philon, he's been their go-to guy scoring the ball a lot. They got plenty of other options that can score. All right, Clemson's leading scorer here so far, Carter Welling, is their kind of go-to guy. But then also have Dylan Hunter, who's still there. Their sixth man last year. He's been playing pretty well so far for the Tigers this year. On the Alabama side, like I said, LeBaron Philon's their leader, but then also having guys like Latrell Whitesell has been playing pretty well. Aiden Holloway's been playing well, as well as who's that big? Oh, Taylor Bowen also been a pretty good big, and Aiden Sherrill. So I just kind of think Alabama has a couple more weapons that I don't really think Clemson's going to be able to slow down. Both the projections liking Alabama to take this one. So give me the Crimson Tide, but I don't know. Clemson was one of the teams that pulled off one of the ACC's 2 wins last year, where it was kind of an upset over Kentucky. So who knows? Maybe they can upset Alabama, but I don't know. Alabama's already faced a lot of tests. I mean, looking just at that top 5, that's all very good programs. So I'm going to go with the Crimson Tide in this one. Then the second game of the ESPN doubleheader on Wednesday at 8:15 Central, 9:15 Eastern. Sorry, I know I'm saying these times weird. I just look at it and it's in Central Time. But NC State, 5-2. They were the first ranked team to lose to an unranked team last week when they lost to Seton Hall in the first round. My pick to win the Maui Invitational, where I said they're the best team in the field. Them and Texas, who I said, best 2 teams, both lost their opening games, ended up playing in the 5th place game of the championship, and then Texas ends up beating NC State. So not a great trip to Maui for them. They take on Auburn, 20th ranked team in the country, who also went 2-1 at the Players Era, beat Oregon, got destroyed by Michigan, but then bounced back and beat St. John's in that last game. They're led by Keyshawn Hall, averaging 20 points per game, and then Darion Williams is a leader for NC State. Both the projections here liken Auburn to win this one. And I don't know, just so far, especially after last week, I was high on NC State, and they kind of burned me. So for that reason, I'm going to be ending up going with the Tigers in this one. Plus, it's a home game for them. I mean, they've played Houston tough. They picked up 2 other really good wins and players there last week. I'm a lot higher on them at this point of the year than I am on NC State. So give me Auburn to take it. And just kind of going through rest of the games here on Wednesday. Indiana undefeated so far. They've looked really good. They had to Minnesota in like a Big Ten game, like I said. Projected to win that one, but you never kind of know going on the road in the Big Ten. Other ones really notable, not seeing too much. Northwestern Wisconsin's a Big Ten conference game. That one should be good. North Alabama and San Francisco could be potentially decent mid-major game. And then Washington UCLA at the end of the day, 11 Eastern on Big Ten Network, so a late night one. I guess that's kind of why the Big Ten acquired these teams. That should be a really good game with Donovan Dent going at it for UCLA. On the Washington side, they're led by Zoom Diallo is their one returner. Plus they got a couple like really solid guys. So Desmond Claude as well, a transfer from USC. So that should be a good one. UCLA projected to win on Haslam. As well as then we got good games like Virginia-Texas should be a good one. Like I said, Texas getting 5th at Maui. Did lose to USC, who went on to win it, but we'll see. They now get a solid Virginia team. As well as then, like I said, Vanderbilt, who's ranked pretty highly. Tyler Tanner's their go-to scorer. He's a buck getter. I would definitely watch that one if you've not yet watched the Commodores this year. 9:15 Eastern on the SEC network. Sorry, I cannot speak. Washington UCLA projection real quick. Like I said, I think that's gonna be a really good game. I probably could have put that one in the preview. Yeah, both sites have that being like a one possession game. With both sides, one side has UCLA, one side has Washington. So that should be a good one. Definitely check that one out. Moving on to Thursday. Thursday, pretty slow slate. As you can see, there are only 9 games in total. Utah State and USF's probably the best one. Utah State won their bracket of the Charleston Classic, just kind of dominating Davidson and Tulane. USF suffered a couple losses at the Battle for Atlantis, but they still should be one of the better teams in the American this year. And then moving on to Friday, another kind of slow slate, but there's a couple good ones. Cincinnati Xavier, the Crosstown Shootout. Both those teams have struggled a little bit here in the early season, but both picked up wins tonight. And then the big one that I'll preview, this is maybe another reason why I kind of like UNC on Tuesday. Gonzaga, 11th ranked Gonzaga Bulldogs head to the 18th ranked Kentucky Wildcats. Gonzaga got stomped in the Players Era Championship. People were talking very highly about Gonzaga, especially after that Alabama win, destroyed Maryland, but then just got beat to a pulp by Michigan. Already kind of touched on Kentucky. This one, looking at the projections here, both have Kentucky taking this one. I picked against them already once, so I don't know if I want to put Kentucky fans in the dirt. But really, I don't know. What's just going to come down is can Kentucky kind of bully Gonzaga the way Michigan did? With some of their bigs, or he's not a big, but Otega Owe is a pretty physical player. So it really seems like once again it's kind of similar to that Gonzaga team a couple of years ago. That game against Michigan was very similar to the Baylor national title game, where if you can just kind of bully Gonzaga, then they might struggle a little bit. So if some of these bigs for Kentucky can do that, Gonzaga could be in trouble. So for that reason, and with it being a home game, I'm going to go with the Wildcats to take this one. So that's going to wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure, if you're still here at this point, drop your picks for some of these big games in the comments. I want to, kind of start shouting some of you guys out on these videos. For those of you who are, commenting your picks, getting some picks right. So appreciate you guys for watching this long. While you're down there, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Going to be a lot of stuff coming this week. We got the second to last college football playoff rankings, as well as, then conference championship games this week. So I'm going to try to drop a video talking about those when we get some people on here who are kind of watching those conferences all year a little bit more than me. As well as, NFL playoffs are heating up right around the corner. And then, NBA Cup, maybe even making a video about that because they got the knockout round of that. So, I'm watching all the sports. I'm pretty much any sport imaginable you can think of, I'm watching it. So, want to make more videos talking about all those. So, if you love talking ball, make sure to subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. Follow the show on Spotify. Check out all my other socials where I'm dropping my takes, dropping predictions, stuff like that. So, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.